Everyone, welcome back to a special edition of Tunnel Vision. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, and we're joined by USC's new special teams coordinator, Sean Snyder. Follow him on Twitter. You can see it right down there. Coach Sean Snyder. Coach, thanks for coming on today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, and I appreciate the invite and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, no, this is fun. I mean, we've done a bunch of these during this crazy coronavirus quarantine kind of stuff, and the coaches have all been great. All the new coaches are awesome. We really had fun that time we got to meet you just before spring football and had like the half-hour conversation with each of you. That was a great time. So I'm glad we get to sit down a little bit, one-on-one and talk some more. But did you guys like that when you had that like little car wash of all the coaches before spring practice?
Yeah, I thought that was a good way to get introductions going and kind of get to some Q&A. So yeah, I thought it was a good time.
Yeah, here's a picture from that. Yeah, so those were fun. How are things going for you? I mean, you take a job in February, and this crazy, coronavirus thing hits in March, just a month later. I mean, that had to be a pretty crazy time for you.
Oh, it's been different. That's for darn sure. I mean, we've all, everybody in the profession is, scrambling around, and everybody's tired of doing Zoom meetings, and the players have been great. It's been I've never worked at home. Never. My wife has, and she's been able to do that for a long time and been very good at it. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of working at home. Normally, when I get home, I want to be with my family and spend time with them. And I can work till midnight at the office anytime. But yeah, working from home, it's been a change, and at times it was a little bit of a struggle. But it made it through it. So now we're in the office and see where we go.
Yeah. So are you in the office now? Is that where you are? Or are you at home?
Yes. No, I'm in the office.
Oh, nice. Okay. So at least you get that. Like the beginning, you couldn't even do that. And did you and your wife move out here? Your kids are older? Are they?
Yes. I have a son that lives in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
I have a daughter that lives in a small town outside of Emporia, Olpe, Kansas. And my grandkids are in those respective places as well.
Oh, wow.
And my wife and I moved out here. So we've got 3 grandkids. My daughter's brought her 2 kids out here a couple times. My son hasn't been able to make it out yet. He just started a new job in Omaha. And so, yeah, it's been good. My wife loves it out here, and we really enjoyed it.
Are you South Bay? Most of the coaches seem to live in the South Bay. Are you a South Bay guy?
Yeah.
Like PV or Redondo? Like, where are you? Like, or you don't have to say if you don't want to, but there.
Oh, no, I'm out there in PV. Yeah.
PV, yeah, that's pretty good. I think Clay's out there too, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Speaking of Clay Helton, USC had a job opening. I wondered maybe if you could describe how that connection went between you and Clay Helton, and that ended up bringing you out here to LA.
Well, I reached out when the job opened up. Reached out briefly to Clay and just expressed my interest. He immediately hit me back and said, yes, let's talk. I'm in the process of hiring some other coaches right now. I'm going to get back in touch with you. So, it kind of dragged on a little bit. We exchanged a couple messages back and forth, phone call. And then as time moved on, we kind of got our communication and, talked about the position and what we do and my philosophies and the things that I've done at K-State. And so once we kind of went through that process, I had just interviewed at the University of Texas and had a lot of really good conversation with Scott Frost at University of Nebraska, and was in the process of planning on going to Nebraska. And Coach Helton got me out here, and once he got me out here, and the way he handled my wife and myself, and the time he spent with us, which is it's unprecedented how well and how good of an experience that went. And so once we got through that experience, we went home, and my wife and I talked about it and talked to the kids about it, and we made the decision to accept the job and head this way.
Yeah, I mean, 26 years at Kansas State in a variety of different roles. I mean, Manhattan, it's not Manhattan, New York, it's Manhattan, Kansas, LA. It's pretty big difference, right?
It is. The thing that's been really great about this is I really wanted to be around a head coach that had similar philosophies that I do and that my dad did. I really wanted to be around a coaching staff that was a united group. Getting here and being able to experience the coaches offensively and defensively, the operations staff, Coach Helton. I mean, it's a tremendous organization here, very well run, and it just feels like home. I mean, it was, I had a lot of coaches around the country that I know and that I talk to and have great experiences with, and but this thing just seemed to check all the boxes. I'm not concerned. Everybody told me back home, you're going to hate the drive, traffic's going to stink and everything. It's not. It hadn't been a problem yet. So I enjoy actually. In Manhattan, I had a 10-minute it took me 10 minutes to get to the office. Here it takes me 40, but it's not a. It actually, I enjoy it because it gives me time to get on the phone in the morning, call my kids, and heading home in the evening, and I'll do recruiting calls.
Yeah, I mean, well, PV is it's a little further away just because it's just getting off the peninsula there. But you're right, the traffic's not as bad right now during the coronavirus.
No, it hasn't. No.
So
it was before we hit the corona thing. It was
yes.
It was 40, 45 minutes. It was a pretty easy drive.
Yeah, but it's a little bit better. I know I'm doing like these long hikes like further away, and it's like one of them's like 90 miles away, and it could normally take like 3 hours. It's like an hour and a half. It's not too bad. Looks like we're on. I hope we're on Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube all at once. I'm gonna try to monitor. I'm doing this all myself because we're social distancing. I don't have a producer here, so I'll try to put some comments up. And I put one up before that just welcomed you in. But there's a Facebook question. They want to know if you can barbecue. Are you a big barbecue guy?
Oh, we've been having the barbecue cook-offs here, which has been going well. So the answer to that is yes. I'm not as good as Coach Nyvar. Coach Nyvar takes. He's the prize winner on this staff, I think. But I do barbecue quite a bit.
Yeah. You became a special teams coordinator. You started coaching special teams, but you were actually an All-American punter when you were at Kansas State. I don't remember a lot of. I've met different special teams coaches. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if a lot of them were specialists themselves. Is that kind of like a rare thing, or is that pretty common in the industry?
No, it's pretty rare. At one point, there were 3 of us, and I'm not sure that that's the case anymore. I haven't looked in a long time, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I know it's pretty rare. There's not very many special teams coordinators that have punted or kicked.
And one of the things when, as far as being a special teams coach, when I was covering Pete Carroll, there was years he didn't have one and just sort of shared duties. And then he brought one in. They actually had really good special teams for a couple of years. It was kind of hit or miss. Then they added that 10th assistant rule. Has that helped the special teams coach? Because it seems like now almost everyone has a special teams coach.
It initially, because that's what the projection was, it was going to put a special teams coordinator on the field. I don't think it took off as much as people expected it to. There are quite a few special teams coordinators out there, but there's also a trend kind of moving back to assigning it to positions and bringing in another coach. I mean, I've seen quite a few staffs now that are going 5 and 5 on each side of the ball.
All right, so interesting. Yeah. So you're kind of like fighting for that as far
Yes.
But it's so important. I mean, it's such an important part of the game. I mean, it's a third of the game. And it is weird when you see some coaches sort of like, it's more of like an afterthought. I mean, for you, do you feel like your main job is making sure that, you're not giving up punt returns, kick returns, or is it to get the specialists ready, or is it just kind of a little bit of everything?
No, it's all of it. I'm going to do everything I can to get our specialists to be the very best that they can be. So that's very, very important. And then as far as the special teams units themselves, being able to establish good cover units and really strong and powerful return units.
As far as your philosophies go, is there a difference between teaching fundamentals to everyone? Because you're basically coaching. You got the specialists, but you're coaching a lot of the position players as well. Difference between teaching like fundamentals and what scheme you want to run, as far as like, here's how we're going to block this, or whatever. Like, here's how we're going to cover this kick. Is there like one more important than the other, or how does that kind of mesh together for you?
No, I firmly believe in fundamentals, making sure that we're able to do what we're trying to do and be very good and efficient at it. The schemes, those are, there's not a lot of crazy stuff that I wind up doing. I want guys to be able to get on the field and perform and execute fundamentally and be fundamentally sound. It's you get too much stuff going on, and it's very difficult for a player that doesn't have a whole lot of time to study it to be really good at it. So I just try to minimize stuff and then be as good as we can at what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
So,
how does that work time wise? Is that something you're lobbying for with the head coach? Like, I mean, you were coaching with your dad was the head coach, but hey, Dad, we need a little bit extra more time for like this field goal block, or is it? I mean, how does that get divided, like in practice?
no, we're Coach Helton's great. It's real similar to what we did at Kansas State. So we'll run 2 10-minute periods and a 5-minute field goal period. So we'll get 25 minutes throughout the course of the practice. I will always I do fundamentals year round, and so we'll have a part of that will be fundamental work, and then we'll roll that into full coverage and teamwork.
So when there's not like a team special teams period, are you working specifically with the specialist? And I'm sure it probably helps that you were one yourself, so you really can teach them what you know because you actually done it before.
Yes, yeah, and we'll break it up, and they'll have a session in the first part of practice that we'll go work on some certain things, and then the second half of practice we'll work on some other stuff. So my time will be spent getting those guys ready.
We mentioned your dad, legendary Bill Snyder. I mean, just amazing what he did to turn the Kansas State program around and just amazing run there. He was actually a graduate assistant at USC, I believe, in 1966.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You're a native, right? You were born here, weren't you? Like you were
I was born in Anaheim.
Yeah. So you're not coming back. You're native. I wasn't. I migrated here, but did your dad have any kind of stories from Southern California or anything that kind of warn you or prepare you for this?
No, but I will tell you, we talked an awful lot, obviously, when I was going through the opportunity here, and he loved it out here, and he loves California area, and especially the South Bay and San Diego. I mean, this whole area out here he really enjoys. But a funny story that he has shared with me is the very first game when he was a GA. And the coach said, "Okay, we're going to meet in the locker room, and we'll get ready and go from there." Well, he got the locker rooms mixed up, and so he met in the locker room here at the complex instead of the locker room at the stadium. So he wound up scrambling to get into the game, which he didn't have a pass, and so he said it was just a scramble to try to get in there on time.
Like, I'm really a coach, guys. I'm a coach.
Yeah.
That's funny. Then all those years later, this is our resident Notre Dame fan who likes to watch the show. Well, shout out to Coley. Had a question on YouTube. Coach Snyder, USC has never beaten Kansas State in its history, 0-2. If they meet a bowl game, any difficult feelings trying to break that streak?
No, I coach where my feet are, and my feet are right here at USC, and this is my home right now. So it is. We'll go out there and treat it like anybody else.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I mean, obviously, you went to school there, you coached there for years, but wherever you are, that's where you got it. I mean, that's where you're getting paid. You want that to obviously that's going to be the most important thing to you.
No, absolutely, and that's the way I was at Kansas State. I mean, there were times in there when Dad retired and when Coach Prince came in and Dad wound up coming back, but and through the beginning and through the second period, there were times where I could have stuck my name out there and started looking around, and my opportunities weren't going to come until Dad retired unless I put myself out there to do it. But that's one thing I've just never believed in. If I'm someplace, that's where I'm at, and I'm going to give it 100% where I am, and I'm not going to worry about the next job or what's down the road.
I want to talk about some of the specialists that you inherited a really talented group. One of the questions, Hippocracker on YouTube was like, "What's your initial impression of Ben Griffiths?" He's the USC punter that was from Australia. If you guys don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this: I've never coached a 28-year-old punter, so My first impression was obviously that I've got a grown man here that I'm getting ready to coach, and the one thing about Ben, which I truly just really appreciate, is he's a hard worker. Obviously, he's a professional. He's been at the ranks for a long time, and now given a shot punting in college, and then hopefully moving on to the next level. But the one thing about Ben is he's very coachable. He's a very strong leader. He's he is very serious about what he's doing and what he wants to become, and he wants that for the whole group, and he wants that for this whole team. And he is just an unbelievable team guy. And so I've just really, my first impression was, all right, this is going to be awesome. And my second impression was the same thing. I mean, he just gets better and better every day.
We in the media got some flack from a lot of the fans because we'd watch practice and go, dude, this kid's amazing. And then it really wasn't that way in games. And they're like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know if you have someone with a very live leg. I do a podcast with Coach Harvey Hyde, who was the former head coach at UNLV, and he coached Randall Cunningham. And Randall happened to be one of the best punters in the country at the time. And Coach Harvey Hyde told me the story, like, he told all the coaches, do not mess with what he's doing. Like, they didn't teach him how to punt. He just punted. Like, don't tell him anything. Just let him do what he's doing. Can you like overcoach a player and maybe like take away some of that, what makes them special? Or how would you assess like when you have someone like that good that maybe they don't translate it to games?
No, and with Ben, I mean, there's some technique things that we're working on that he's. I mean, all the guys have some little stuff here and there that need to get cleaned up. But the answer to your question is yes, you can overcoach him. But that's a part of, for myself is, I gotta know those boundaries and what they can and can't do. And, I haven't really had an issue with it over the years. I think, when we get out here and get going and where I can actually work with them on their punting and kicking. And I've already kind of explained to them what it'll look like, how much I'm going to be in their ear and how much I'm going to rely on them to get some work done. But I think if you're coaching a guy and you're in his ear all the time, I don't care if you're a punter, kicker, or play a position. Eventually, as a player, it starts to drive you nuts, and then you start overthinking things yourself. And so, it's about trying to keep it, make the progressions you need to make, not try to correct too many things at one time, and then just let them do it.
You also have Chase McGrath out there, and initial impressions of him as a kicker.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. Most of it's just been conversation. Like I said, I've only seen him kick one day. We got that one day of spring ball. But Chase is a phenomenal kicker, and he works, incredibly hard. The whole group of guys, I've just been really impressed with their work ethic and the expectations that I have for them. I mean, they've been really good as far as getting into that role and executing the things that we talked about. So. But yeah, Chase, a wonderful person, and again, just mature and really handles his business well.
I believe you have 4 specialists on scholarship right now, plus you have a 5th one coming in at Parker Lewis, the really talented kicker. What is your philosophy as far as the number of specialists you would want on scholarship, and do you like to recruit scholarship guys and bring them in, or is it more of we're going to bring in some really talented walk-ons, and whoever shines, we would give them a scholarship, or is it some kind of combination of both?
I think really it kind of depends on what's out there and what the opportunities are. At the end of the day, I'd like to have 2 snappers available. I'd like to have 2 punters available. I'd like to have 2 kickers available when it comes to scholarships, but spread out. I look at this thing the way the roster needs to be. If we need to be 1 snapper on scholarship and 1 punter and 1 kicker, then that's what we're going to do if it's best for the program. But at the end of the day, at Kansas State, it was primarily bringing guys in as walk-ons, developing them, and then going on scholarship once they earn the position. Here, it's going to be a little bit different. I mean, there's going to be some potential scholarship guys out there that we're going to have the scholarship to bring in, and we're going to go after the best guys we can.
Did you ever have? I think you all have 5 guys. Do you ever have 5 guys on scholarship when you were a special teams coordinator? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure to what the ratio is. Is sometimes you see just like there's hardly anyone on scholarship, and sometimes there's a lot.
Everybody's different. I
Yeah.
mean, I think your minimum is going to be three.
Okay.
I know some programs that even if they're starting, don't put them on scholarship. So, but I think if you got a punter, kicker, and snapper. I think traditionally at most schools you'll see three on scholarship, possibly one or two more punters and kickers, and then eventually you got another snapper coming on.
Well, you mentioned you got to see these guys only for one practice in the spring, unfortunately, but you're out there now. I mean, they're out. What are these current workouts like? It's really just been a week or so, right, that you've been able to see these guys on the field with your own eyes in person. How have those workouts been so far?
Oh, they're going well. We've got and right now it's all conditioning, so it's not anything with the football. But yeah, the guys are out there working hard. I mean, you can see the effort and the dedication that they have, and they're grinding. They're trying to get back in football shape, and when you're not in a football facility doing football stuff, it takes a little while to get back into football shape. And so, that's what they're doing. They know that there's a sense of urgency, and they got to do it quick. And I go out and watch every group when they go out and run. So it is it's good watching.
We talked about kind of the recruiting process a little bit with the number of scholarships, but how involved are you in the recruiting process? Because there are definitely guys that there might not be a kicker, a punter, or a snapper, but they might be more of a return guy that you could talk to, like, hey, if it's a wide receiver, you talk to Kerry Colbert about, hey, we want this guy too because of his ability on special teams.
No, I have those conversations, and I wind up talking eventually to every recruit as they come in. That's one of the things that I ingrain myself and get involved as much as I can. And obviously, the more coaches talking to each one of these young men about the program and about what the expectations are, and getting to know each other and developing a relationship. And so it's important to be on the phone and to be engaged with the guys that are coming in, because at the end of the day, outside of a couple positions, they're all going to eventually be on special teams.
Yeah. Are there any key things you look for when you're evaluating a high school player for like a kicker or a punter or a snapper, like some of the specialists? Is there certain things you might look for? Because sometimes it's an afterthought when you're playing high school football. But there's certain aspects or attributes you would look for?
No, I'm a big technique guy, so I really watch a lot of close-up technique of what they're doing. I'm not all concerned about in high school. I'm not all concerned about hang times and averages and that stuff. My most important thing for me is if I can get them in a camp and work them in a camp and see how good they are coachable, and how much they can adjust on the fly. I like to see those types of things, and so at the end of the day, there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of really good kickers and punters and snappers, but to me, it boils down to the coachability and the technique of where they're at, and that they do got to have some leg strength. I mean, they got to be strong, and so that's about it.
There's some raw talent there you can kind of mold a little bit, I guess.
Exactly.
For speaking of raw talent, when you're talking about kick returners and punt returners, what would be the difference? Like, what makes a great kick returner versus punt returner, and what are the kind of attributes that are different between those two?
Really, the big difference is just how much agility and quickness a guy has. So kickoff return, you can get a guy that's a little bit more straight line, speed and fast. With punt return, you need a guy that's a little bit more agile and quick. Still want the home run speed, but at the end of the day, you've got that would be the biggest thing. You can just use more of a straight line guy with kickoff return.
How much are you working with the return guys? Is it much as you'd work with the specialist, or what's the ratio there?
No, not as much. I'll work with them when we get in and get going, and once we get a ball in play and we can start doing some things. I have a few drills and some stuff that I do with them, and Coach Colbert, he will handle and do most of that work with them. But it's I've had a lot of dialogue. I talk to them, and then when we get out on the field and start getting the ball flying to them, I'll work with them as well too.
Any of the guys stand out to you from a return standpoint? I know it was only one practice, but it's stuff maybe you've seen on film. You're like, oh, I could definitely see him as my punt returner or him as my kick returner.
Well, to be honest with you, with all of them, I mean they're also gifted and talented. Tyler Vaughn's was really good on the raw. Did a really good job. Obviously, we got the youngster that's in here now, Gary Bryant, who, he can definitely spark, and Keenan Kristen. So we've got a good group of guys that to work with, and I think at the end of the day, they're all gifted and they can all do it.
So you got, those are return guys, but there's people who have to block for them. You're taken from a variety of positions. Is it one of those things where you're looking at film and you're like, I think he would be good as a protection guy on punt team, or I think he'd good at, covering kickoffs, or how do you kind of evaluate that, and what do you look for there?
Yeah, I've watched some film to watch what they do and how they move around, and then a lot of it's the body types and position that they play. Because what I try to do is match the position with the player, or the player with the position, and try to make sure that it's something that they can be successful at. I try really hard not to put guys in positions where they're doing something that is not in their regular routine at their position. So there are some nuances that they'll learn and develop with, but the focus really is just to get them in a position where they're comfortable and they can execute and play fast.
A lot of times, a freshman might come in, and if he's a linebacker and he's not, getting in the starting rotation, he can have a big impact on special teams. But something that's changed recently is the redshirt rule, where you can play 4 games, not just in the beginning of the season, but anytime during the season. Has that impacted how you kind of manage rosters at all, or do you envision it doing something that it can help you or be a detriment at all?
No. I like consistency. I like to be able to get guys on units and keep them there. There's timing, and there's a lot of things in the cover units where the consistency, the continuity of the unit is really important to have. And so I'm not, when that first came out, I know a lot of teams went to playing, guys for 4 games and rotating other guys in for 4 games, rotating other guys in for 4 games. And so it's at the end of the day here, that's not, and I didn't do it at Kansas State, but that's not going to change how I do it, what I do.
Yeah. You mentioned Gary Bryant Jr., very talented freshman. Do you have any issues playing freshmen on special teams? And is there a philosophy where you might play younger guys versus veterans, or you don't want to use a lot of starters? What is your kind of philosophy as far as that, playing some of those guys?
Yeah, so I'm going to put the best guys on the field at special teams. It may not be the best. I mean, it could be a starter and may not be the best guy on special teams. But no matter how it shakes out, that's what I'm going to try to get. I got to have guys that are be dedicated to it, that'll study it a little bit extra on the side. In the meetings, the good thing is, everybody pays attention in the meetings, so that part's good. But I need guys that'll do just a little extra and put that dedication to it. And I'm not partial to anything. I need disciplined players that want to win football games and want to do what's best for the program.
We talked about Ben Griffiths a little bit. I don't know if there's anything different when you're dealing. You said it's the oldest punter you've ever had. If there's any different way to, deal with an older player like that might have different concerns and stuff going on, and overall, how would you define success for a punter?
That's a great question. Obviously in the statistical world, averages mean an awful lot, but really for the success of a punter, it's being able to control the ball and how well he can do the things that we're asking to do. I think sometimes you have a guy that may hit the ball out there and have an average 55 yards, but if he's out punting his coverage every time and teams are getting returned, well, that's not effective. That's not what's best for the program and best for the punt unit, what we're trying to achieve. So, I think the control factor of how a punter is able to do the things, whether it's a directional punt, whether it's a pooch punt going in, whether it's coming out of the end zone and being able to get it where we need it. I think those are the things, to me, that will define the success of a punter. And as far as Ben, and working with him and anything different, no, that he is his maturity. It's like working with anybody that I have over the years. It's a junior or senior that's been in the program and has developed. He does, the thing with him is he probably has a little bit higher standard of work ethic than most people, because he has been a professional. He knows how to train professionally, and coming in here and being able to work with him and kind of get him lined out with the things that he needs to improve on. I never have to worry about that with him, and I wouldn't with a junior or senior.
Yeah.
Sometimes the younger guys, you have to worry about that a little bit.
You were a specialist, so you kind of know this role. If anyone out there has ever watched a football practice, usually the specialists are doing their own thing, and then every once in a while, oh, now the whole team's coming together. We're going to do kick field goals or whatever like that. I mean, it's sort of a different. Is it a different existence where they're kind of doing their own thing in a lot of spots? And is there a mental aspect to it to where you have to keep guys kind of in where they might not be doing what everyone else is doing, but they have to still be working on what you want them to be working on?
Yeah, but everything's kind of, for a practice, for example, everything is staged out to where, what we're working on is going into the period. So if it's a punt period, we're working on that prior to going to punt period. So it's not a, there's not too many mental lapses you have in there, because they're focused on what they're doing and where they're going. Now, a lot of places, the kickers and punters, kind of like what you're referring to, are they're off on another field and they're kind of hanging out and nobody's got them doing anything, and all of a sudden it's, hey, we're in period 10 and we got a punt in period 11, and it's a scramble to get over there because they were playing around and weren't paying attention. So, but no, that's for these guys here. It's pretty uniform of what they're doing.
Okay, we had another YouTube question. This is before your time, obviously, but thoughts on Jake Olson? That was magical for USC. It was one of the, I think ESPN had it as the #2 sports moment of the century or something. I mean, it was like crazy. Yeah.
Oh, I think that was incredible, and I think giving that young man the opportunity to do that was, it was a blessing and a top-notch act.
Yeah, he's. We've had him on this show too. Just a special player. I mean, could you imagine coaching a kid that couldn't see, like that was blind? I mean, it just seems crazy.
It would be different, but I'll tell you this: having somebody that would be passionate about the game and be willing to go through that and do that, it would be such an honor to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it was really unique to cover it, and it's been great to kind of watch him grow from there. So it was pretty neat. Another YouTube one. Do you believe in having starting offensive line on punt and kick returns?
I personally don't use offensive linemen on punt and kickoff return. I know a lot of programs do, and I know the reason why, because they can handle, especially on kickoff return, they can handle a guy flying down the field and trying to run straight into him and blow up a wedge or blow up a guy in the back end. And on punt, obviously they can do a good job of securing up the shield, because obviously that's what they do all the time. But no, I personally don't use them. But I don't have any beef with it. I mean, I've used them before when several years ago, the University of Texas was their special teams guy at the time liked to just put the big defensive lineman in there and try to run over the shield all the time. So I used offensive linemen. So it kind of fits for what you need.
Yeah. Jake Doonesbury followed you from Kansas State. He was a student coach for special teams. What did he bring to the team as a special teams quality control analyst?
Well, the good thing is with Jake at Kansas State for the last 4 years, he's been doing all the film breakdowns and doing all the behind the scenes busy work. And so that's what he does. And so bringing him here, it made the transition really smooth. We don't have to spend a lot of time training anybody for breaking down Pac-12 schools and getting scout reports ready and all that kind of stuff. So, that's the big thing that Jake does, and he's really good at it.
How important is it to have that extra pair of eyes as with a quality control assistant?
It's really good. He's got a good eye for everything. I mean, like I said, he's been working with me for 4 years, so he's got a real good eye for what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to get out of teams. So, I mean, talk about saving time. When we get into an opponent, he's got everything broke down. He's got a scout report ready, and he's able to take me through the shortcut version of things that I typically look for and pull out into it. So he gets me fast forwarded really good.
Do you have to go? We have a couple minutes, or you
No, we're fine. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Like, I know you're busy. It's in the office. They're like, you're not used to.
Yeah.
When did you get back to the office? It was like a week ago, or
A couple weeks ago.
a couple weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had one YouTube one that's kind of funny from Coley. When's the last time you let it fly? Teed up a ball and let it fly. I'm sure your players would like that.
Well, right now it's been a couple years. I was doing it pretty regular until I ripped my hamstring on my flat leg, and so then I kind of laid off of it. And I'll tap it every now and then, but I won't cut it loose.
It was funny. Like, it'd be neat to see you out there at practice doing that. When we covering Pete Carroll, he just always loved throwing the football all over the field. He'd want to throw drills for the DBs. He just always was trying to be involved. So to see like a special teams coach out there punting or something, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, well, you'll probably see me at some point in time, but won't be cutting it loose. That's for sure.
So, we're in the media. We're critical of whatever we see out there, and I've probably been extra harsh or maybe overly harsh on USC special teams the last couple of years. I mean, how do you judge like if it's a successful special teams game or season? Because we're just doing for like if you give up a long kick return, like, hey, that's a problem, or things like that. I mean, it's more basic on our level, but do you look at it? Is there like stats you like to check out, or how do you kind of judge what's successful and what isn't?
No, the stats I try to. I pay attention to them, but I don't put those at the top of the list. What's important for me is that we're doing the best that we can to provide, whether it's a big play. It's definitely not giving up big plays, but we want to be able to do gain the best field position we can, put our team in the best position to succeed. And like for example, in 2018, we had a punt return guy that got injured. We wound up doing a couple different things, and it was a successful year, not in the yardage or returns that we had, but it was successful that none of the teams punting against us had good averages. Most of them, I think, were around 35, 36 yards an average. And so, we did some things rushing the punter and just trying to get bad punts, and we blocked. I think we got our hand on 4 of them. But it was just a different approach as opposed to just all-out returns. But at the end of the day, it's about field position for our offense and defense, and being able to do what's best for the team at the particular time. Sometimes it's not going to be, the averages may not be great, but it may be a great game.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends on how each game unfolds.
Do you think sometimes if you might read an article or something like they're criticizing your unit, and you're like, hey, they don't know what they're like. We actually did this for a reason, or this is what happened. Like sometimes something like that happens. Like, they don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Oh yeah, if you've been in this long enough, you get criticized no matter what you do. So, at the end of the day, I don't pay much attention to that. And my focus is with the players and doing the best I can to get them ready for each game, and being able to get them through a game, make the adjustments we need to make through the course of the game, and try to help keep them all motivated. And that's my job. My job's not to look at all the other stuff.
I think we might have touched on this early in March when we had that meeting, but is there a philosophy as far as, would you rather have like one big great play and a couple bad ones, or a lot of pretty good plays without the kind of mistake? Like, where sometimes we've seen, especially with the USC, there'd been like a feast or famine thing. Like, there'd be a great special teams play, but then there'd be an awful one. And then it's like, I don't know, would it be better just to have a bunch of average plays, or to have like this wild swing? Because it obviously can change the momentum of a game.
Well, let me preface this answer by understanding who I tutored under for all the years, which would be my dad, who his expectation is perfection on everything. So to answer your question, to me, there is no room for bad play.
Okay.
We're just looking for good play and big plays.
Yeah. Well, and like one of the things last year, one of the big games, USC was it was tight with Oregon early in the late in the first half, and Mikael Wright had this big kickoff return for a touchdown with 20 seconds left in a half. It just seemed like this back-breaking play. I don't know if you saw, but not that play specifically, but when something like that happens, what can kind of what's usually goes wrong in that? Because it's like there's only a few seconds left in the half, and how do you kind of like move past something like that? Because those big plays can really shift the momentum away from a team.
Yeah, they can. And that's one of the things that I'm, that when you get, it's just like a kickoff and you go down and pin someone inside the 20-yard line. I mean, it's a huge momentum for the team. You turn around and get a punt return or kickoff return for a touchdown. It's a potential game changer, the swing of the game or momentum. But one of the things that if it happens, it does. I mean, Oregon got me, and when we played them in the Fiesta Bowl several years ago, and got a return back on us. And but it's about breeding the confidence in the players. And hey, we're going to keep plugging away, keep rowing the boat, because at the end of the day, that's one play, and it's a big play, and it's one that we can't accept, and we've got to understand that where the mistake was made, we've got to fix that mistake. But we're still going to have an opportunity throughout that game to make the big plays and do our job in the cover units and stop them, the big plays from against us. So, it's about being an even keel and keeping them going. And I don't, you got to fix the problem. And I'm about fix the problem. So if we make a mistake, a guy gets out of his lane or gets out of position, whatever, we just got to fix the problem so it doesn't happen again and move on from it. Because if you let that play beat you 3 or 4 more times, then we got a bigger problem.
Yeah, it just snowballs. We got 2 more. I think we'll let you go. We really appreciate the time. One of the challenges is you are coaching players from all over the team. It's not just, I got the running backs, I got the quarterbacks, whatever it is. It's guys from offense, guys from defense. What's the philosophy of kind of keeping the personnel all in sync during a game where they might be doing their thing for their position, but then they have their special teams duties? And is there a way you can assure that, hey, we're going to get the right guys on the field, the right number of guys, everyone doing the right thing? I mean, it's got to be, it seems like a complex problem to make sure that that's happening, especially in the heat of the game.
It can be. It can also get there when you got double number situations where you got to get a jersey pulled over a guy as well. And but no, we'll as far as that goes, we'll do a lot of rehearsal stuff prior to getting into the game. And then I constantly am working the sideline and working with the guys, and I'll have somebody working with me as well, so that we know who's on the field when we got to go on the field, and who stays, who needs to run on, make sure we have them. You run into problems sometimes if it's a really quick moving game, fast paced offense, and you've got 1, 2, 3 downs, all of a sudden you're on the field, and 1, 2, 3 again, you're back on the field on the other side. And coaches are talking to players on the sideline. And there's a lot of moving parts. But I'm third down. If I don't have them all standing next to me, then we're going to have a problem. Then we got to have a discussion. But third down, I typically call everybody up and get them ready. I get head counts, look on the field, and so it's important, obviously, and it's got to be important to them. To know what's going on in the game and paying attention to that so that they're ready to go.
And then sometimes there could be an injury and the guy's out. And so then you have to make sure his backup is in. And so, I mean, it seems like a complex problem. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah, it is. And I mean, there's especially with the injuries. I mean, it could be third down injury, boom, you got to have a sub ready to go right away. I typically will keep a utility guy close by that can go in at any position. So that way we've got all guys on the field and ready to go. So there's ways to work with it, and once we kind of get to that point, like I said, we'll kind of rehearse through some different things and get the guys' minds on it, and hopefully they pay attention, stay focused.
One last one for you we got from YouTube. Do you like a directional punter or someone that just can boom it down the field? What's your preference?
Yeah, I like the directional punt, and then there's times where you just kick it, boom it down the field. But one of the things I try not to do is try not to get us out punting our coverage. I just want to make sure that we can cover it wherever we go. So, and I kind of referred to it earlier. Is I want guys that have good control of the ball when they're punting it, which Ben does, and so. it gives us an opportunity to be able to place the ball in places where I think we're strong and can better cover it.
Yeah. One last thing I totally forgot about this. We talked about this last year a little bit. With the rule that you could fair catch a kickoff, like, you talked about, if you can pin someone inside the 20, like on a kickoff, at the 10, you can fair catch and get the ball at the 25. I think we've seen fewer, hopefully I'm not mistaken, that there's been fewer kickoff returns because of that rule. Is that something you like to take advantage of and say, hey, if you have an opportunity, just fair catch it, we'll take it at the 25, or how do you like to manage that?
Me personally, I don't like to fair catch it.
Okay.
I want the ball returned. I want to give our guys an opportunity to do something. But I am a team guy, and so if we're in a situation where it's best to fair catch it, then that's what we're going to do. When I was at K-State, when they implemented that rule, there were a couple of times where it was just a smarter thing to do. We weren't doing very well on kickoff return. The opponent was doing really well on kickoff, and we were struggling getting the ball out. And so to get our offense a better advantage, I mean, we had to fair catch it. Now, I mean, it gets to me when we have to do that, because I'm not. I don't.
You want to return it.
I want to return it. Yeah, I want to return it.
Yeah, makes sense. I keep forgetting one last thing. I'm so sorry. The rule used to be, at least I thought so, that like a punt returner would put their like heels on the 10, right? And then if it's over your head, you let it go. Is that still the case, or was that never the case, or is that changed at all?
No, it's changed a little bit. I mean, everybody has a different rule of what they do. Some's 10, some's 8, some people to 5. To me, really boils down to how good your punt return unit is to give you the flexibility to do anything like that. So, at the end of the day, I've done it where we've told them return it. If it's in play, catch it and return it. And so,
okay.
And if it's an opponent that's pretty good at punt coverage and what they're doing, then if the ball's inside the 10, let it go and let the thing get out of the end zone. And so, it varies per game, opponent, and what we're trying to do, and how good we are.
It seems like, I don't know, maybe because there's punters now that are really good at like pooching it and making it bounce back, like kind of like putting a spin on your wedge, and they can can really. If it's before, maybe if it was over the 8, it was going in the end zone. Now it could, at the 5, it might stop at the 5. So it might be better to catch. I don't know if the punter's getting better, it's kind of changed the philosophy too.
Yes. Yeah. No, that absolutely will. Absolutely will.
Yeah. All right. Well, we really appreciate the time. It was great to have some one-on-one time with you, Coach Sean Snyder, USC's new special teams coordinator. Glad you could be back in the office, and thanks so much for doing that.
Ryan, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. That's Sean Snyder. Follow him on at Coach Sean Snyder on the Twitters. All right. Thanks again, Coach. We'll talk to you later. All right. Take care.